money. We have watched billions and billions and millions and trillions. It sounds like. I mean, it's numbers that sounds like the Jetsons
We
at
hear
this point.
$100 million announcements all the time, right?
Exactly. All this money is coming to the city and the state. Where is the money?
What up, though? It's Dewan here again for another episode of Speak for Yourself. We have a very special guest that I'm going to invite to introduce herself to you all. Ken will not be joining us today because we only have so much time, and y'all probably know already that he talks a lot, or probably a little bit too much. No, just kidding. He won't be joining us. He had some other things that he had to take care of today. So this is going to be me and you. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
All right. What up, though, to everybody out there? I am Latricia Wilder, formerly Latricia Simpson. I am a West Side Detroit native, Cass Tech alumni, who also owns Vibe Ride Detroit. We are located downtown. We are a health and wellness facility. I don't like to say gym because we're not a gym. We focus on group classes and group informational sessions to make sure we're living our most wealthiest life that we can. And that's my story.
Nice. So where are you located for those that are, how can people find you? Can you give the address and then a website?
We are on 1026 Randolph Street, right downtown, across the street from B-Dubs. I always have to say that. That's the best way for people to find us. At the bottom of the Greektown parking structure, which we have validated parking. That's another plus. Our website is theviberide.com/Detroit. And you can follow us on Instagram at Vibe Ride Detroit.
Yeah, I got a chance to come by and see your space. I mean, not only do you have like prime location, but space is dope. I mean, like, you know, studios that you have in there. I can't remember the sister's name that was there when I came, but just she was great. Made you feel really welcomed. And then I kind of study you know, when people are interacting with customers, so customer service.
Absolutely.
And I also study like space and location, because I think sometimes people don't necessarily expect our spaces to be dope.
Be nice, right?
Yeah.
So I've gotten that. Like, I remember, because I worked the front desk a lot in the beginning, and I don't like to tell people I'm the owner, because you get the best information when they don't know.
Yeah.
And I remember this lady was talking to me and she was like, this is really nice. And I'm like, you sound surprised. And she's like, well, I heard it was Black owned. I said, me too. And she's like, I mean, why? It's clean. And I'm like, should it be dirty?
Right.
Like that was intentional. Everything about that space is intentional. I got sick of feeling like if you are in the inner city, or if you're an everyday person, as I call it, you get bottom tier stuff.
Yeah.
And all the way around, let alone in when you're working out. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be in a smelly space. I don't want to be, you know, I shouldn't have to spend, you know, $200, $300, $400 a month to have a clean environment, nice classes, nice people. Right. So that's the intention behind it. From hiring down to, I mean, everything we put in there.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me, like seeing that how we get reputations for things like that, right? It's like clean and nice, right? It's kind of like the you're so articulate comment, right?
I know, and half the time that comes from us.
Yes.
So I don't get that from anybody else. It's always us. I've had the biggest complaints have come from us. The biggest, you know, shockers and surprise was from us. I've only put one person out of my studio ever in the last 3.5 years, and it was one of my own.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God. This is it's a learning lesson, but it's very disheartening.
Yeah. It can have a little extra sting to it, but it's like how do we get reputation for not having clean space when like we've been the ones to clean, like for us and everybody else, right? It's like that was our role in some spaces, right? To make sure stuff was tight.
We've been conditioned to think that everything that's outside of Black is right.
Yeah.
So this is why we run to, you know, certain designers that disrespect us constantly, but we give them our money and we are walking billboards for them.
Yeah.
Because we are also taught that makes us something.
Yeah.
And so it's very disheartening, even when we complain. Like one lady was complaining, we were doing classes outside during the pandemic because we couldn't be inside. And there was people walking around catcalling. We're in downtown Detroit. And she was very upset and said that she felt like we should have done more, and she felt it wasn't done because she was a Black woman. Now you're talking to Black women.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not going to tell somebody they can't walk through Detroit. This is all of our Detroit.
Yeah.
They can't touch you. They can't get on my bike.
Right.
But somebody walking through the street, this is all of our street. Like, when do we get to the point that we're so... And I'm like, if this was not a Black establishment, would you have caused all this ruckus?
Yeah.
Because trust me, you go to Nike, you go to somewhere else and you're disrespected. They're not even hearing what you got to say.
Yeah.
And we still give them our money.
So how do you navigate that, right? So you're an entrepreneur, and some people ascribe to the customer is always right? And you have to find the balance between, okay, what's good feedback and what is, okay, are you coming for me because we all have these negative stereotypes that we have in our minds because we've all been conditioned. We've all seen the same things. We've all seen the same news reports, the things through media and other spaces. So how do you balance that as an entrepreneur, versus somebody giving you some good feedback, constructive criticism versus, I think what you're describing as unmerited criticism?
I think all feedback is good.
Okay.
Some is not constructive, but I think all feedback is good. And I do not go by the model that the customer is always right.
Okay.
I go by the model that right is always right. Sometimes right comes from the customer, sometimes right doesn't. But the basis of what I think is right is what I go off of. But my husband tells me I'm a walking liability because my people come first. And my team, I'm very selective on my team. So my team will come before any customer because I picked these people. And so I'll ride for my team. And so because I do that, then my team gives a certain level of service and then customers feel that reaction.
Okay.
Versus the flip side.
Okay.
Even down to I have favorites inside the studio. My front desk, which is my experience curators, are my prime priority. Most people would say they're coaches. If they mess with my front desk, they know they're getting a wrath because most people look at that as the bottom tier job. But that is no bottom tier job. So if I'm the boss and I'm saying these are the most important people, then who else can you step on at that point? So literally, I let someone go for being disrespectful to my front desk person.
And you're talking about a customer?
No,
just for clear,
a
to
coach
be clear.
on that.
Oh,
one.
So you let a coach?
I let a coach go, and he was my best coach.
Oh, wow.
But I'm like, you're not putting your feet up on the desk and talking down to anybody in this space. I'll find somebody else. I didn't leave corporate America to then have that environment in my 2,400 square feet.
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is customers, team, anybody, whatever the basis of just being humans and right is, it don't matter which side it comes from. So I've put customers out, I put coaches out. I'm an equal opportunist.
Okay, sounds good. Before we run into our first break, I want to hear you talk a little bit about kind of your background, right? I know that you went off to an HBCU.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? And as we see, or definitely saw at one point, talent leaving, and it's hard for us to get folks to come back to the D. What was that decision process like for you to come back to the D, and where did you land before, if anywhere else, before you came home?
So I was gone from Detroit for 20 years, almost, just under. I went to Howard.
Okay.
The real HU. I have to make sure we put that out there. The only HU. But I went to Howard, and then after that, I moved to New York, and then I lived in LA.
Okay.
And it's funny because my husband's from New York, and he always tells people that when you have real Detroiters, Detroit goes wherever they go. So even in those times, I never called a place home that wasn't Detroit. Right. So when it was time for me to say, I want to start a business, I want to invest my money, I want to do anything, it was coming back home. I had a house here the whole time I was gone. I didn't even have a house that I lived in, but I bought a house home because this is where my roots are. So I never had the idea that I wouldn't come back home. I just didn't know when.
Gotcha.
It kept being prolonged because I was having so much fun. But it was always, especially the idea of having a family and doing that thing, it was always here.
So how long have y'all been back in Detroit?
4 years.
4 years. How does your husband like Detroit?
Oh God. It's still a work in progress. We still have a place in New York. Okay. He still goes back and forth a lot.
All right.
But I think my daughter helped him with his transition more than me.
Nice. Okay. All right. We got to find out like what he enjoys doing and make sure we give him heavy doses of that, so we can win him over. Because we need y'all to stay. Right? We need y'all to stay. So we're going to go to our first break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about equity, access to capital for Black entrepreneurs, and some of your experience and your thoughts on what that's looking like in Detroit right now. So we want to shout out one of the Black businesses in the city, Detroit Sip, one of my favorite coffee shops. Detroit Sip is community's coffee. Detroit Sip is the community's coffee shop. It is located on 6 Mile between Livernois and Wyoming. Inside, you'll find free Wi-Fi, sweet and savory treats, and drinks to celebrate the city of Detroit. Let us be your home away from home. Let us be your home away from home or workspace. Printing options are also now available. We are open every week, Thursday through Sunday. Follow Detroit Sip on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We are much more than a cup of coffee and have the best customer service around. Come chill with us. Inspiration is just a sip away. We look forward to serving you again and again. Detroit Sip, 7420 West McNichols, aka 6 Mile, Detroit 48221. So I do want to talk about Black entrepreneurs, experience when it comes to access to capital. Are you feeling like that's on equal playing field? Are we in a better space now? And kind of like, what has been your experience?
So are we talking Detroit or just in general?
So let's talk Detroit. Let's be specific and kind of talk Detroit.
So Detroit is based off of a lot of CDFIs that I've seen. You have your major banks, but for a lot of smaller businesses and Black businesses, especially if you go through the programs like your Motor City Matches, they push you to a lot of CDFIs. And that is a gift and a curse, in my opinion, because it is a gift for those who can't get traditional lending because it gives you money quickly to do your business. The curse is it can be a bit predatory. And that's kind of controversial for me to say. But again, my opinion, because the interest rates can be extremely high. And then you have terms on it that then will give you a balloon payment even higher after. And so you go into this with the idea, my business is going to be successful. I'll pay this off. No big deal. And things happen like a pandemic.
Right.
And now you're getting out of a pandemic 2.5 years later, and your payment is about to balloon and be 25, 35, sometimes 40% higher.
Wow.
How do you recover? Yeah. And you can't refinance out of it. Because you're not in the same situation. So if you have traditional financing, it's harder to obtain, but you usually have better terms. So I found here you have access. It's just not the best access. We need more access to traditional banks. You need more Huntingtons to come to the table. You need more Chases to come to the table. Yeah. And not just these smaller banks that are saying we'll take a risk on you, but charge you up the wazoo to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good feedback. And I think that I hear you say controversial, and I get it because, it is controversial to say it, but I think that, those of us that are service providers, we got to be open to kind of what you said, getting that feedback, right? And sometimes it's hard, but I think that we have some good organizations out there doing some work, and if we're all open to some of that feedback, we can find some solutions together. I know that there are some organizations out there that are trying to figure out how to buy down, get funding to buy down some of those interest rates, right? Like that, create products that'll be even more beneficial, right? So what are your thoughts on some of the things that you're hearing that's happening out there in the ecosystem?
Where's the money?
Where's the money?
These organizations should be funded. Where's the money? We have watched billions and billions and millions and trillions. It sounds like. I mean, it's numbers that sounds like the Jetsons.
You hear $100 million announcements all the time.
Exactly.
Right?
All this money is coming to the city and the state. Where is the money? You give money to those organizations, you don't have these problems.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched other cities do it and do it quickly, and I don't understand why it's so much red tape in Detroit when there are other places that are executing programs, 0% loans and low interest loans, no interest loans, grants, that's more than $2,500, $1,500.
Right.
That makes it so that it's actually sustainable. Because no shade to a grant, everybody can use some money, but you giving me $5,000 in the middle of a pandemic and patting on the back, that $5,000 is gone in 2 minutes, and my business is still closed. Right? And my business was still closed.
Yeah. Yep.
I couldn't even function yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is a sustainable solution? What is a long-term solution? Yeah. People need money, but people also don't want to keep digging themselves in holes and be further in debt. So when you have no interest loans, it's basically saying I'm loaning you some money with the guarantee of you paying me back. And if you don't pay back in these terms, then you refinance, now you pay interest, but you're buying me time.
Yeah.
And other people do it. Rich people do this all the time. That's why the rich stay richer. And I think with all of this HARPA money and all this money from the federal government, now is the time to try these programs because it's not costing the city.
Yeah.
This is money that you received.
No, that's good. That's good. I know that you sit on a council where y'all offer up advice to organizations like Black Leaders Detroit and others that are at the table. How do you feel? Like, I know you don't want to speak for the whole group, but how do you feel that y'all voices, or I guess as y'all speak as one, y'all voice is being received and respected as y'all offer up advice?
I think it's 50-50. I think when we come to the table, half the table listens, half the table doesn't. And depending on which half has the power is if something gets done. I think that there's a lot of times that we've said some things and we wanted to do the summit. The summit was phenomenal. It was also a great photo op. So it was easier to get done because that also gives great publicity to show what the city is doing for, a lot of businesses. It was a lot of resources. It was a success. And then afterwards, it was a lot of silence. We talk about funding all the time. We talk about money all the time. But then again, the other 50% might not be listening to that. And then you don't see it happening, or it's a lot of red tape and it's a lot of political jargon that gets mixed in. And so I will not say I am smart enough to understand how that process works, but I will say I'm smart enough to know that if other people can get it done with the same funding, we can too. So it's either you want to get it done or you don't. There was $100 million grant supposedly out there for people in the state of Michigan to go after. And last I heard, over half of that money was given back to the state. There's no way that you can't find enough small businesses in the state of Michigan to give off that $100 million.
Yeah.
So that is, to me, the perfect example of crap.
Yeah.
How do you disqualify small businesses in the city? If you pay taxes in this city, you should have qualified.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I got a friend that and I think he probably, I'm not sure where he got it from, but one of the things that my friend Doug Stewart, who's the executive director at the Max and Marjorie Fisher Foundation, always says that like the reports or the small business owners, especially the Black small business owners, are called high risk when, especially if you're talking about in the traditional spaces, we don't even have the data to call the small Black business owners high risk, right? If anything, it might be hard to lend to, is what Doug says. And I'm not sure. I'm giving it a quote to him. He probably would correct me and say where he got it from. But I think that might be a more appropriate term. Is like maybe harder to lend to, right? But if we don't if we don't even have a strong enough like sample size of where y'all are getting traditional funding, we can't call you high risk, right?
It's no higher risk than you have many of billionaires. Amazon, he blew what, $10 million before he ever even could make his thing stick.
Yeah.
If I had $10 million to blow, I'd be a billionaire too. If I had $1 million to blow, the difference is we don't get a second chance.
Yeah.
You give me $5 and I'm supposed to make this $5 reach 5 million.
Yeah.
Whereas you have other people that get chance after chance after chance.
Right.
Half of these millionaire billionaires have how many bankruptcies in their past?
Yeah.
We don't get that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, personally, that's kind of what I wrestle with when we use terms like equity and equality, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, to me, it's like part of that is a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even a chance to fail,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like just a chance, right? And you know, I mean, we at Black Leaders Detroit, we see y'all, right? And we see y'all like doing a lot with, you know, little access,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why we, you know, me as a leader at Black Leaders Detroit, I constantly have this clock ticking in my mind, and we celebrate some of the things that we've been able to accomplish in a short amount of time. But like, I don't want to use the word tormented, but I would say probably motivated and inspired by where I see us being as an organization and having a lot more resources to offer versus kind of where we are, you know. But because we have a crazy hardworking team and we have crazy like resilient folks that donate uh, their $1 a week or their $52 a year, that have like positioned us to be able to have the impact that we've had so far. I have to remember to celebrate kind of where we are and some of the things that we've been able to do. And
y'all bring cash to doors.
Yeah.
Like that is dope.
Yeah.
I got a check from Black Leaders Detroit that was bigger than the check I got when I had to go through Hunger Games type level applications and wait 60 days and then wait another 30 days after you're told you're granted $1,500.
Yeah.
Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, I welcome both checks. I just
no doubt,
know
right?
that one was like here and one was like, you have now entered the Hunger Games. You need to pick your side and see if you make it to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so we had a event, Detroit Drip, where we had a competition there, and I'm usually kind of anti-competition because it feels that way to me, right? It feels like some Hunger Games stuff. Like you're asking like crazy, talented, hardworking entrepreneurs to compete, who also like need this money to compete against other crazy, hardworking, talented entrepreneurs who need this money, right? And then like winner take all. So I'm like typically against that. We did something at Detroit Drip that was a competition, and we had 32 business owners, some designers, some own stores, and we were celebrating the Black entrepreneurs in the fashion industry. But Detroit Drip, the theme was you were to buy or wear something that you bought from a Black clothing designer or clothing store. So we were able to bring some business. Yes, we were able to get some business out to them that way. So that made it feel less Hunger Game-ish.
Well, no, that's a collaborative thing, right? There's nothing wrong with healthy competition when it's actually promoting everyone.
Yes.
But there's a lot of these competitions that I'm 42. So I'm on the edge of I can still come in and compete. But at 62, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I have my business for 30, 40. I'm out.
Right.
Automatically. Right. But I've also been running a business on Livernois for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't get to go after that money because like there has to be a balance, a checks and balance. And that is what you don't see. It's catered to a lot of, Detroit is very catered to you starting your business and not a lot of resources after you've already established your business. I saw that really big in the pandemic. When I was starting Vibe, I couldn't give out the way of people offering me resources.
Yeah.
After 2 years in, unless I wanted to open another one and I call myself in the growth, the sustainability part, no.
Yeah.
Or even with a lot of the grants, part of the restrictions was not debt consolidation. How can you say you're giving me money as a business, but I can't use this money to pay off past debts?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to go to a quick break, and then we're going to come back and pick it up right there because I got some more questions around that.
Okay, so for this trivia installment, it's one of my favorites, and it actually is what got me interested in Black economics and our well being as a people. So, this entry is about the Housewives League of Detroit. I learned about these ladies during the pandemic, just reading, but they were an organization of, to start, about 50 women. Fannie B. Peck made the call for women to come together, and they had 3 goals. That was to buy Black products, support Black businesses, and patronize Black professionals. So what they did was they went to local merchants and stores to see if they met that criteria, and if they didn't, they put them on a no-shop list. Now, this organization arose during the 1930s, which was the worst economic time period in our history because it was the Great Depression. And on top of that, it was very much so an oppressive period for Black people, but what else is new, right? Anywho, so they went from store to store, put people on the no-shop list if they didn't meet those criteria, and they went from 50 women to 10,000 women to multiple Black cities in the Midwest. And not only that, they secured over 75,000 jobs for African Americans during this time period. So when I learned about these women, I was just really inspired because all it takes is for us to come together and be smart economically and to make sure that the communities we live in actually serve us. So the second installment for today is about the Housewives League of Detroit. Learn more about them, Google them, know your history. Thank you.
Yeah. So as you talk about like some of the challenges and, you know, some of the things that are out there in the ecosystem and are available, especially when you're starting off and talking about your own experience, right? Which I appreciate because this is Speak for Yourself, right? And we want folks to come and share their own story and their own experience. But I also realize you have enough experience to speak to kind of like the overall like happenings in the ecosystem. One of the things that I want to ask you and the other Black entrepreneurs and everybody else to do for us is to continue to like hold us accountable as well, right? I know that y'all see us as a startup and kind of getting started and wanting to do us right. And I know that we've been able to accumulate a lot of trust in the ecosystem, but you know, I'm just huge on accountability, right? And like, I don't think that we can afford to let our guard down and give anybody a pass, right? Like I've seen people be really, really great in one moment and the same person do some stuff really crazy, right? That ends up being shocking. So as opposed to like us end up shocking anybody, we want y'all to know what's going on with us and continue to look for ways where we can continue to improve as well, right? Because at the end of the day, you're a member. So we're giving away your money, or we're loaning people your money, right? Money that you put in to the organization. So we want to be accountable, and we actually need y'all experience and expertise. And when we get correction, criticism, or concern from you, we know that you're doing it because you want to see us succeed, right?
But here's the thing. Y'all are winning from my viewpoint from the fact that y'all talk to small business owners. Half of the time, the decisions made for small business owners do not have small business owners involved. Yeah. Half of the people that are handling the money for small businesses don't even talk to, don't know someone running a small business. So when we even started our advisory committee, we had all these people, these execs, telling us what small businesses needed and the resources small businesses needed. And then you go back to your office and your check. Yeah. And it's very much like the fact that you're communicating on the streets to people owning small businesses, because also most of what we're talking about are micro businesses. Yeah. Because America discerned small businesses during the pandemic, and Shake Shack is not a small business. I wish I was a Shake Shack small business. Yeah. So
how much money did they get from PPP? I can't even remember.
I mean, it was millions. They gave it back because they got embarrassed.
Yeah.
But Delta got PPP money.
Yeah.
Kanye West got PPP money. These are all small businesses.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by you. Certain people have opportunities to fail.
Yeah.
And even in Detroit, it was a hard time to get Black businesses to even apply for PPP money or the EIDL loan.
Yeah.
We went out evangelizing why to apply for EIDL.
Talk about that a little bit. Why are people reluctant?
Because we don't trust banks. Historically, why would you want a loan? Black people don't trust banks.
Yeah.
We'll take a credit card before a loan.
Yeah.
And it's insane because a credit card is going to charge you 20%. The EIDL loan was 3%. You will never see a 3% loan again.
Yeah. So in your experience or your opinion, the Black entrepreneurs that were out there, they didn't feel like it was even worth their time because they didn't think the money was set there for them.
Not even just set there for them. You didn't think that you would get it. Yeah. Why am I'm over here literally cutting all the heads I can to make my rent. I have to stop and put this application in. With the PPP in the beginning, you had to go through major banks that weren't even checking your application because they got kickbacks to hire the loans they processed. So if I'm processing for $50,000, I'm at the bottom of the tier. So then once that first PPP round went through and nobody got money, you weren't trying to hear EIDL because this just looks like what we always experience as Black people.
Yeah.
So you had to have other Black people say, wait, no. If you can get any EIDL money, go after it's 3%. Yeah. If you do nothing but pay off your credit cards, it's 3% and it's 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now on the back end, no one is working those loans. That's going to screw a lot of Black businesses because it's up to you to make the payments on your own. You don't get no pay slips. They sent you one letter that told you what your monthly payments is supposed to be. If you're not on top of that, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So they have no one servicing the loans.
Yeah.
And the people that are going to get hurt are the people that don't have accountants handling their books every day. Even to that, filling out for those applications, you had to have your books in order. How many small businesses don't have their books in order?
Yeah. I mean, you got the entrepreneur that serves as the baker, the janitor, the security, and everything else, right? Like the person, the carpenter when the lights need to be changed, or the maintenance person, I guess. So adding one more thing to their to-do list, right?
You have to make sure it's worth it. You have to tell them it's worth it.
Yeah.
We went and helped people. Miss Dawn that Shears and Shades, we were talking her through the process because you should get this money. You've been in this business for how long? Longer than I ever thought about a business. I was in school.
Right.
So how are these people getting left behind? America was built on small businesses.
Yeah.
They just forget it.
Yeah. That's one of the things that, as I think we share some similar frustrations with some of the things that we see. One of the things that's really dope and really encouraging is the way I see the small businesses show up for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
the pandemic helped with a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see y'all like show up for each other when somebody's putting something on, everybody kind of shows up. If somebody needs some information, like I think, one of the small business owners just got a no interest loan from Black Leads Detroit. And I remember you and a couple of others being an advocate for that person and making sure that they know. And like, it's interesting because that person didn't even know that we existed, right? So it was good to be able to see them make it through the process. But yeah, it's just really good seeing y'all show up for each other in that way, and it continues to give me hope. So if you were to offer some advice, as we realize that trust is huge in this space, and like what does it look like for some of the service providers that are out there to really look to genuinely earn the trust of the Black entrepreneurs, so that when there is a product or resource out there made available, people won't second guess it or not even apply because of the suspicions that we naturally have, right?
It's talking to people. It's literally having people see you. Don't sit high and look low. Come and talk to people, and talk to people like they have sense.
Yeah.
Talk to people like they're equal.
Yeah.
listen to what they're saying, and then you try to solve a problem. But let it be their problem, right? If someone's telling you they need money, and then you come back and say, I got a marketing strategy for you. Thank you, but I don't need to market if I'm not open. If I say I need a marketing strategy.
Say that again.
Like, but it's just, it becomes condescending after a while. I remember in the pandemic, one of the initiatives that no one asked us about, they started sending out pamphlets on people that were giving free services, bankruptcy services, and sending them to small businesses. And I remember one person was crying when she got it, because she's like, is this something somebody's trying to tell me something? She didn't solicit that. She's grinding every day. I understand you think that's a resource, but to somebody that's grinding day to day, robbing Peter to pay Paul, to get in the mail a personalized with your name on it, we will give you free bankruptcy services on how to close your business.
Wow.
Come on now.
Yeah. You know, as I've been in the nonprofit space for, I guess, maybe 7 years now, or going on 7 years, like, we can be very paternalistic, right? As service providers, we can be very paternalistic. And it's interesting, right? Because if you go to the doctor, right, who's an expert on whatever type of medicine they practice, when you go for a visit, the first thing they ask you is, what's going on? What brings you here today? Right? So, like, what they're doing is they're submitting to your knowledge and your expertise on you, right? And I just don't see us really doing that, right? I don't see us doing that enough, saying, hey, like, entrepreneur, like, what do you need, right? Like, what brings you here today? I see us assuming that we know what y'all need better than y'all do
all the time.
And we have to check ourselves, right? And I've been in the nonprofit space for 7 years, so there's a part of that like, I've inherited from being in this space, and I'm constantly trying to challenge myself to say, DeJuan, stop being paternalistic.
Because
like, you don't know what's best for somebody else,
and it's all different. And the thing is, also for trust, if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're going to show up, show up. If you say you're going to, get an answer for you, try to get it. And if you don't have it, say, I don't have it, but I'm working on it. But too many times there's a lot of things thrown out there, and then there's nothing, it never lands, it never sticks. Stuff is coming, it's coming, and then it don't come, and it's like, oh well. And for somebody, that is your lifeline. You are banking on this stuff. Because what many people who are getting paychecks every 2 weeks don't realize is every hour I spend on this phone is an hour away from my business. I'm not billed for this. And so that needs to be valued and appreciated. And as small businesses, we need to continue to work with each other, because we are our best allies and we are our best line of defense. The reason my business is still here is because of the other small business owners I talk to, the information I've gotten from other small business owners on how to move, how to maneuver, how to get my loan renegotiated, how to get my lease renegotiated. If these factors did not happen, I would not be sitting here as a business owner. I might be working at Starbucks. But again, I didn't get that from Tech Town. I got that from Ping that on the Royce. And then I got that from Nefertiti from Textures by Neff. And I got that from talking to Danielle, like individuals. From talking to Ty and Randy who have Pillar and Pride. Like, how can we brainstorming? All right, you got to do this. Okay, I've done that before. Because most small business owners too are experts in what they do. I cut hair. I know how to cut hair. My lineup is dope. I'm going to give you the best fade ever. That doesn't mean I'm an accountant. That doesn't mean I'm a lawyer. That doesn't mean I know my business. But business is bigger than that. So the more people you have around you that knows other parts of the business. I got money from EIDL because I talked to another person that told me how to maneuver it. Because I got denied the first time. Because I had a traditional SBA loan, which I was supposedly the golden ticket when I got it before the pandemic. I was the lucky one. So, you have to go out and get it. And most people that own a business have that in there, especially in Detroit. Detroit has a grit that I don't think any other city really has.
Yeah.
But you want to collaborate, especially as best Black businesses. We're not always taught to collab.
Yeah.
You want to collab, and you want to be able to rally behind people, even if it's not your own self benefit, because long term it'll benefit you.
I agree 100%. 100%.
Long term, the benefits are there.
Yeah, definitely. So, before we let you get up out of here, not that we can hold you if you was ready to go, we know that you just bounced. But before you get out of here, can you talk a little bit about, because you gave some hard critiques, right, of some of the things that are happening right now. So I hope that we take it to heart. Sometimes when talking to other Black folk, I try to encourage us to say the same thing that we say when nobody else is around, when we're in this, when we do have a seat at the table, right? And I see you like push to do that oftentimes. But I just want to say that though this is Speak for Yourself, you're saying the things that are said when other decision makers, particularly some of our white colleagues that sit in the seats where the decisions are made, when they're not around, right? Or some of our Black colleagues, right, that sit in the decision-making seat. Sometimes we don't say these things as clearly when they are around, and I think that that's a mistake on our part.
Absolutely.
I think the way that we view power is skewed, right? I don't think that we understand what we bring to the table oftentimes, and how like organizations like Black Leaders Detroit does not exist if we don't have the entrepreneur on the other side.
Yeah,
right?
advocates. You got to advocate.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, for me, talk to these older business owners.
Yeah.
These people have so much knowledge and wisdom and will help you walk into your truth and into your space. And so many times we disregard, especially in this generation we're in this weird space we're in, we disregard our elders as not knowing much. But they've navigated through a space that we're coming back into right now. And so part of how I am very vocal and don't really care, because I left a very well-paying job to open my own business. And so I said, if I left this job, I'm not sugarfooting for nobody on my own stuff. I'm not grinding to then also step and fetch.
Yeah.
So at this point, what's mine is going to be mine. What isn't. And if I get into a group that I say I'm advocating for, then I need to truthfully advocate.
Yeah.
And my truth may not be everybody's truth, but at least if it's said by me, you're going to know that's what I really believe, and not what I'm trying to sugarcoat or make pretty or make nice. Because I agree, we don't always have seats at the table. Like I said, 50% of the time they're not listening, but that doesn't mean it's not said. And when you say it again and again and again, at some point, somebody has to take heed.
Yeah. Well, one Black person that prides myself on saying how I really feel in the moment to another. Absolutely. I appreciate it. I appreciate that. I don't like people wondering where Dewan is coming from. Sometimes it leads to, challenging conversations. But I just believe in saying what needs to be said in the space. Otherwise, I should give up my seat at the table if I have one to begin
Absolutely.
with. Right?
Our ancestors fought for us to be heard.
Yeah.
And we in a space where we can. What can they do?
Yeah. Say no to something that I don't have already.
Exactly. We sitting there and we're like, where the money?
Right.
Give them the money. You saying you don't know how to do it? Why can't we say Black? That kills me in Detroit. Why you can't say Black?
Right.
That's not taken away from nobody else.
Oh my goodness. So we would need another hour to dive into that.
In the city of Detroit.
In the city of Detroit, we could not say like Black, unless we're talking about poverty, right? Like if we're talking about, some like we I think that people don't want it attached to strong
progress.
You know what I mean? Like that right there, we should just say kind of everybody, right? But when we start talking about, underperforming, right? And we're talking about like terms like that, then people are okay and with associating Black with that. But we're talking about sharing power. We're talking about leadership, right? When we're talking about things like that, like we don't want to connect Black with that, right? It's something alarming. So we need to work on that for sure. Talk about hope though, right? It is coming up on time, and as you've shared a lot, like what gives you hope and brings you back to the table and like believing that we are going to get where we desire to go, wherever that is. What gives you hope?
Detroiters, man. Detroiters. Like when I came downtown, I'll say this quickly. I got a lot of flack for putting my business downtown because I was told it was selling out to be downtown in Bedrock and all this stuff and, everywhere in the city, and it would have been a lot cheaper and all these things. But I was very adamant about being downtown because I believe you can't have a new anything if you got old flavor in it. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up under Coleman Young. That's the first thing you see when you walk in my building is a Coleman Young quote. I grew up in the downtown where it was still Cass Corridor. That's right. When I was in the 90s, coming to Jefferson, being at Hart Plaza, wasn't no Riverwalk. So all of that. So if you hold on to some of that, you can't create new. This isn't a blank canvas. You just enhance what you already have. Yeah. So the more I feel real Detroiters coming in and saying, look, we never left. So you don't have to make new. Right. You just enhance what you got. You build upon what you got. Right. I have a problem when people think that they have to come and take over and change something. Yeah. It didn't need to be changed. It just needed to be enhanced. It needed to be updated. Yeah. Yes, I think all this new development is great, but you got to have old flavor in the new mix. Yeah. And that would give me hope because there's more of us out there than we know.
I agree. And we have to stop thinking that like we can't be in downtown and midtown, right? It's like that we can't like segregate ourselves and say like we don't belong in a certain part of the city or anything else.
On the People Mover, the weekend it opened, literally to ride around in the circle. That was the dumbest thing. But either way, we were so excited. Like, come on. You can't let all these people coming in that don't know nothing about you. I remember the girl told me, isn't it great we can come back to Detroit? I've been in Detroit. Right. So you got one of her.
Don't but call I can't come back.
Right. But I cancel her out. If I'm there, she say her statement. I say I've been here. Now we canceled out. We back at zero. Yeah. But if it's only two of her and none of me, then that becomes the new narrative. Yeah. So my hope is that there's more of us that keep pushing that. More of us that keep saying these spaces been these spaces. Yeah. Detroit's been a Black city. Yeah. And we thrive. We carried Michigan. Yeah. So that's still there.
No doubt. Quick, I won't tell the whole story, but I remember my wife and I went to a popular restaurant in downtown Detroit, and there's a really beautiful part of the restaurant that the seating and the view is really lovely. Then there's a part that's like, the restaurant's still nice. It's a nice restaurant. But I remember the one side being pretty empty. It was brunch time, but the people that were sitting on that side were mostly white, and there was a hostess that was like running the show that had the hostess that sit us in the other section, kind of saving those spots. And I asked, I was like, hey, why are we sitting over here? I was like, I'd like to sit on that side. And it was a sister that was sitting us, and she smiled as to kind of say she was glad that I said that. So she went back and talked to her manager and said they want to sit over there. They sat us over here. And I said to them, from now on, when I come in here, like, put me in the whites only section.
Don't even waste your time.
Don't put me over there. Don't sit me over there, right? So anyway, I appreciate you carving out time to come and have this conversation with us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. So one more time, tell them where they can find you online and in person.
So you can find Vibe Ride downtown, 1026 Randolph Street, right on the corner of Monroe and Randolph. We are online at theviberide.com. We are on social media. Facebook is The Vibe Ride Detroit. Instagram is Vibe Ride Detroit. We're on TikTok. God help us. That's Vibe Ride Detroit. And you can email us at info.detroit@theviberide.
Thank you. Thank you. And I got one more favor. Don't cut it. Can you encourage those that have been following Black Leaders Detroit but haven't signed up to donate their $1 a week yet, or their $52 a year? Can you extend an invitation to them for us and tell them why you think they should sign up to become a member and donate $1 a week?
You should absolutely become a member and donate $2 a week, because one, if you look in your closet, you have one item in your closet that's over $52. One item. And I'm sure that one item is not bringing you any joy, for real, like deep gut, soul wrenching joy. But that $1 a week, you will know that that is going to save a business from somebody that looks like you, talks like you, might be your mother, your grandmother, your sister, your aunt. And that's that soul wrenching joy that you may not even know it today, but you're going to feel it later. So that's why.
Oh,